Yo, what's up everybody, Aiden here. So in this video I'd like to show you a couple of things. Firstly, I'd like to show you how I got shaken out of my favourite setup, which is first green day. I got shaken out, I didn't stick to my risk, and then I had to watch the stock run 75% without me. And secondly, I'd like to show you how I made $400 trading stocks over the past 2 days. Let's have a look. Yo, okay, let's have a look. The first one to look at is CNEY. Now, this is a ticker that ran in sympathy to QH. So QH was the big 800% squeezer Chinese stock that we had last week. So when a stock moves 800%, it's likely that it's going to have some sympathy plays. So after hours, when this was squeezing 800%, I was looking for potential sympathy plays. I'm not very experienced at sector momentum, so I didn't take any trades. The ticker that I was looking at as a possible sympathy was TAOP, and we can see here it did kind of have a pop right as market closed. I thought this could do it, but I didn't take a position. As it happened, the ticker that ran in sympathy was CNEY. So first, if we just jump to the intraday chart, we can see on the day of the 10th after hours where QH had the big squeeze, we can see this after hours had a little pop, and then next day is when it ran. So I missed that one, learnt from it, which I'm pleased with, but then we can see it gaps up and has this big day one. So I miss all of that, and again, that's cool. Some of you may know by now that if I miss the run up, what I'm going to look for is a first green day, which is basically after the stock's had a big run, it has a pullback and then has its first green day after putting in one or multiple red days. So after the big run, it has these two big red days whereby it gaps down quite significantly and opens red. So my thinking was the possible change, the possible trend change, and the possible first green day may come when the stock opens green as opposed to red, which it has done on its prior 2 days. So if we just jump to the intraday quickly, this is a 3-minute chart. We can see here, big run, big drop the next 2 days, and then I'm interested in it on this day. So pre-market, it does break below the previous low of day, which I saw as quite bearish, but only just by about 5%, and then it pushes green and then kind of jumps around the red green level. So I thought, okay, cool, this is tried to break the previous lower day, couldn't really do it, went green. This could be the day that it has its first green day. So I started in at 44. This level here is the previous close, this is the previous lower day, and this is the pre-market lower day. So I started in around 44. Out of the gate, it has this little pull. So my plan at this point is to risk off this lower day. Ideally, I would like it to hold the previous lower day, but I didn't want to risk getting shaken out by having this as my risk level. This is a 5% difference. So I sometimes when I take trades, I understand what the correct risk level is, and I understand how to size in according to that, an amount that I'm willing to lose. But what I find sometimes is that with the best of intentions, I take the trade thinking that's my risk level, I'm going to lose X amount, 100 or 200 if it goes wrong. But then I start to see my unrealized loss and end up cutting before the risk level, and then the trade works. And this is kind of an example of that. So like I say, started in at 44. Out of the gate, it has this little pull. I was hoping of a slightly bigger pull down towards the previous lower day, or pre-market lows, but I could see that there was a turn here, and so I jumped in, got another fill at 44, and then watched it push. So I took a piece off here around just below 50 cents, like a sixth of mine, just to lock something in. So at this point, because it's pushed green, and it's green like, I don't know, less than 10%, I start moving my risk level around. I start thinking to myself, well, if this is going to have its first green day, then it should really hold green, or at the very least hold the previous lower day. I'm not willing to risk that other extra 5%, and so I move my risk to here. Then when it's trying to hold VWAP, the bid just gives away and it flushes. And I look at my unrealized P&L, even though it was within my tolerance level, I still hate seeing it red. And so when it had this little bounce up to 43, well, it bounced to 45 in the end, but I got out at 43 because the bid completely gave away. It was like at 41. So when the bid came back up to 43, I just quickly got out, ended up with like a $15 loss, and thought that I was a genius. I did end up sort of taking a step back. I was really pleased with my trade. I actually wrote in my where I track my trades as like perfect trading. But then when I had another look, I thought, well, no, because your risk level should be here. It's held this and it still could run. But by this time, when I'm reflecting, it's pushing red green. It's touching red green, and still there is a trade there. You know, people will play that when it pushes the previous close and turns green and has its run. You know, I can understand why people will play it there, but I felt like I was chasing off this low. If you look at the bigger picture, it is down massively. So anything in here is kind of like buying weakness. But when my style of trading, you can see here why I sold is because I'm still uncomfortable being down on my position. I'm not yet comfortable with it. So I know if I buy here and it comes back and tests this level, I start getting scared of slippage and this kind of thing, and I end up sort of cutting and getting chopped up. And so I didn't get involved with this. I didn't buy it here. And even though the trade worked, I feel as though for me, I did the right thing not buying here, because like I say, I want to risk off this level, and that was the correct entry for me, and so therefore here would be chasing. So yeah, then I just saw the squeeze. I would also add, in addition to that, one of the reasons why I was perhaps trading extra scared with this one is because when I traded QH, I did a video on this if you go back and watch it. Same thing, big run, couple of red days, and then its first green day. Well, it's kind of like it's kind of like its first green day, but it was actually 20% down ish when it opened. But when I traded this, and obviously CNEY is the sympathy to this, but when I traded this, it didn't have as big a bounce as I thought it would. I was sized in quite large for this one, and I made some decent money on it, but it didn't have the kind of explosive move that I was hoping for. So CNEY, obviously being the sympathy, I had this I had QH in the back of my head thinking, well, QH didn't really run, and that was the sector leader, so this probably isn't going to have a big bounce either. So therefore, you know, I was shaken out more easily and missed this big 75% move. So it was sort of frustrating, I guess, to see this go without me. And I did sort of do the math and was thinking, oh, I would have been up this much and I would have made this amount. But at the end of the day, there'll always be another one. And the lesson for me here is to really stick to the risk level that is most significant, because until that gets broken, my thesis is intact. There is something here also about sizing, and did I get my sizing correct? I kind of feel like I did, because at this point I was down a couple $100, and that's okay for my account, to be honest with you. But the problem is, because the bid gave away here, I was thinking, well, if the bid gives way again, then I'm going to be down. I could be down an extra 10%, and that's a larger loss than I'm willing to take. So perhaps really what I coulda, shoulda, woulda done was take half position size here, and then if it works, it works. But if it doesn't, I can re-add right near lower day. So that perhaps would be also one of the lessons going forward. So that's CNEY and how I got shaken out of my favorite trade. But I'd also like to show you how I made $100 yesterday and $300 today. Yesterday I traded, and they're quite similar, so NCNA. So I've still got my lines on. So I don't often trade wedges unless they kind of meet certain criteria. So the wedge, trading a wedge is something that I picked up from Dan Irish. So definitely recommend checking out his tutorials on his trading style if you want to learn this particular setup. Now, like I say, I don't really trade wedges that often, but when it takes almost all the day to set up, to me, and the volume is kind of doing this, getting washed out, which is essential for me in order to take a wedge, it's probably worth a shot. Okay, so I took an entry at, I think, at like 680-ish, and then I sold a bit early and then re-added because I felt like I needed to have patience. Ideally, I thought this might hit 10, and then sold a little piece up here, and then when it kind of failed, I just cut the rest of my position for even. I think at the height of that trade, I was only up $200, and I ended up up 100 after I cut the trade. So again, entered here, sold a piece here, re-added when I realized I'm selling too soon and getting kind of too focused on the micro when this has just broke a wedge that had been forming all day. So like I say, re-added here, sold because of a piece into these highs here, and then when it's kind of failed, I sold the rest for break even, making $100. But because I traded this wedge yesterday, when BFI shaped up today pre-market with a wedge, I thought, okay, well yesterday it worked, so maybe today it will again. So BFI daily chart, if we can see that it is capable of some explosive moves. So for that reason, I am more inclined to take a trade. So, and also if we look at the daily chart, it did have a big day one here with big volume, but a lot of the resistance will be up here as well. So I did feel like it might have some room to run. Obviously this is the biggest day, so there will be resistance in here as well, but yeah, I still did feel that it could have some room. Excuse me. So yeah, pre-market, we can see here again, pre-market wedge. It's not the same sort of time period or the length of time that NCNA took, but yeah, it's pre-market and it's pretty much forming a perfect wedge with the descending volume. So there's different ways you can take an entry on the wedge. So on NCNA, I entered as it was breaking the wedge, and then I'm looking for a straight push. In terms of risk level, if I don't get a push straight away, I'm cutting when it comes to this particular setup. However, on this wedge, I actually bought it down here and was going to just risk off this level here, off the trend line. So I got in at 22, which was great, and then I tried to re-enter again at like 22.5, and it just moved too quick. So I only got like a third of my shares filled. But yeah, it's pretty nice to see when you enter a trade and you get that straight explosion. It does mean that I generally start selling too soon, but yeah, not a bad problem to have. But I think my best sale was like 29. I missed all this move here, but yeah, I sold from like 27 to 29, and I made, I guess, around 300 on that one. This morning, yeah, kind of didn't get involved in any of this. My trade was pre-market, and yeah, finishing the day $300. Well, I say finishing the day, there's still time left, and I've still got cash in my account, so potentially could take another trade. But as it stands, there is nothing that kind of interests me, so I think I'm going to walk away from the computer. It's quite a nice day in England, so I'm probably going to go for a walk. Also, in addition to that, I would say that I've been trading really well at the moment, but well, I guess as a result of me trading well this morning, I realized there is a slight overconfidence coming, developing in me. So I just want to be aware of that and make sure that I am looking at the charts and looking at the information and trading in accordance to that, not trading in accordance to my previous green days or my previous week's profit or something like that. I really want to just make sure that I'm not doing dumb things, really. So just want to say that out loud for sort of self accountability, really. Just help myself realize that, okay, it is creeping in. Cool. All right. Thank you for watching, guys. I will see you on the next one. Cheers.